A lion does not chase approval. He walks with presence and the world makes way. A truly masculine man does not run after those who walk away. He vanishes, not in bitterness, but in discipline. The world tells you to chase, to convince, to beg for love. But Stoicism teaches a harder, higher truth. What is meant for you does not require pursuit, and what runs from your presence is not worthy of your strength. Chasing someone is often mistaken for devotion, but at its core, it stems from insecurity. A man who chases is silently saying, "You're more valuable than I am. Your validation defines my worth." This is not strength. It is emotional dependency disguised as romantic effort. The Stoic man understands that true love does not require pursuit. What is real will naturally remain. What is unaligned will naturally drift. To chase after someone who withdraws from you is to abandon your own center. It is to place their whims above your inner peace. A man rooted in Stoic philosophy does not react out of fear. When he feels someone pulling away, he doesn't chase them with desperate energy. He steps back and observes. He lets their actions speak louder than their words. If someone genuinely values you, they'll show up with consistency, not confusion. The Stoic does not confuse mixed signals with mystery. He sees it as a lack of clarity and chooses to protect his emotional boundaries rather than chase illusions. To chase is to attempt to force something that is not naturally flowing. It's the opposite of masculine stillness. The more you run after what doesn't serve you, the further you drift from your own power. But when you pull back, when you reclaim your attention, your energy, and your silence, you regain control, not of the other person, but of yourself. And that is the only control that matters. The Stoic man is not cold or detached. He feels deeply, but he refuses to let fleeting emotions dictate his actions. He does not engage in power games or emotional pleading. He chooses discipline over desperation and calm over chaos. In doing so, he becomes unshakable, someone who walks away not because he's weak, but because he is wise. A truly masculine man understands the difference between being wanted and being useful. Many women don't chase because they don't have to. Men line up, offering their time, attention, and resources freely. But the Stoic man doesn't volunteer to become just another option. He doesn't make himself overly available or constantly reachable. His time is sacred, and he gives it deliberately, not out of a need to be liked, but from a place of self-respect. This subtle distance creates presence without desperation, a rare energy that is noticed, respected, and often missed when gone. When you are always available, always texting back instantly, always saying yes, you lose your mystery. And mystery, in the psychological sense, is not about playing games, but about not revealing everything at once. The Stoic man knows that emotional and physical space create gravity. His absence carries weight. His silence has meaning. He doesn't need to say much because his lack of reaction already speaks volumes. A woman may test your boundaries, not maliciously but unconsciously, to see what you tolerate, how you respond, and whether you're easily controlled. When you don't react emotionally, when you choose space instead of begging for closeness, you demonstrate inner strength. And strength, not supplication, is what earns respect. This is not about manipulating others with absence. It's about maintaining self-respect in a world that constantly asks men to prove their worth through chasing. The Stoic understands that walking away from a situation that drains your energy is not weakness, it is wisdom. Disappearing is not cruelty, it is often clarity. If she values your presence, your absence will say more than any text ever could. And if she doesn't, you've just preserved your dignity and energy for something or someone more aligned. A masculine man rooted in Stoic philosophy knows that his value doesn't come from being validated by others, especially not by seeking constant reassurance from women. In today's culture, many men fall into the trap of needing to be seen, liked, or affirmed to feel confident. They chase attention, praise, and approval, thinking these things define their worth. But the truth is, the more you seek validation outside yourself, the more control others have over your emotions. And this is exactly the kind of power a Stoic man refuses to give away. True strength comes from being grounded in who you are, without the need for applause. A woman may test your stability subtly or directly to see whether you need her approval to feel secure. If you do, the dynamic shifts. She now holds power over your sense of self. But when you're centered in your own values and your confidence is self-sourced, you become unshakable. You don't need her praise to know your worth. You don't need her constant affection to feel whole. Masculine energy is calm, composed, and detached from the emotional roller coaster of seeking external affirmation. This doesn't mean you don't care or feel. It means you remain balanced. When she pulls away, you don't panic. When she challenges you, you don't crumble. You respond with presence, not desperation. And ironically, it's this exact stability that draws people toward you. Women, consciously or not, are drawn to men who stand firmly in themselves. Not in arrogance, but in quiet certainty. When you don't need her validation, it subtly communicates that you're a man of value, regardless of how others treat you. That confidence is rare. That stillness is powerful. And that's what makes you truly magnetic. When a masculine man senses disrespect, he doesn't argue, beg, or seek to prove his worth. He simply disappears. This isn't out of pride or immaturity, but out of deep self-respect. He understands that his time, energy, and presence are sacred, not to be offered where they're undervalued. In a world where many tolerate being treated poorly in the name of love or attachment, the Stoic man chooses silence over confrontation and absence over pleading. He doesn't chase because he knows his worth is not negotiable. There is a quiet strength in knowing when to walk away. It doesn't require a dramatic exit or harsh words. It's the simple act of removing yourself from a situation that no longer aligns with your principles. The masculine man doesn't try to fix someone who refuses to grow. He doesn't stay in rooms where he's ignored or talk to walls that won't listen. He observes, reflects, and then vanishes, calmly, without explanation. Because he doesn't. 1. This approach can be unsettling to others, especially those who are used to manipulating emotions or playing on insecurities. But when faced with silence and absence instead of neediness, they're forced to reflect. Sometimes your disappearance speaks louder than any words ever could. It tells the other person, I value myself too much to be part of this. Walking away is not weakness. It is power exercised with discipline. It's not revenge, it's self-mastery. The Stoic man knows that emotional control is the highest form of strength. He chooses peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and respect over desire. And in doing so, he teaches others how to treat him, not by force, but by example. When you value yourself deeply, you won't need to chase what dishonors you. You simply leave. A masculine man understands that the deepest form of power comes from emotional detachment, not in the sense of being cold or indifferent, but in remaining grounded regardless of how others behave. While most people react impulsively to rejection, disrespect, or manipulation, the Stoic man remains composed. He doesn't get swept away by highs or crushed by lows. His emotional stability is his shield, and it allows him to move with clarity in a world clouded by emotional chaos. This doesn't mean he lacks feelings. On the contrary, he feels deeply, but he's trained his mind to not let those emotions dictate his actions. He knows that reacting in anger or desperation only weakens his position. If a woman plays games, withdraws affection to provoke a chase, or tests his limits to gain control, he doesn't flinch. He observes. And through that observation, he gathers insight, not emotional turmoil. This form of emotional control is rare, and that's what makes it powerful. When you no longer need to chase validation, you naturally command respect. When you respond with calm instead of confrontation, you gain leverage. And when you walk away without emotional drama, you leave a mark more powerful than any argument ever could. People are drawn to what they cannot control. The Stoic man's refusal to be emotionally manipulated makes him both respected and unforgettable. He doesn't explain his boundaries. He simply enforces them. He doesn't beg to be understood. He allows distance to do the talking. In every situation, he chooses stillness over reaction, discipline over chaos. And that makes him unshakable. True strength isn't loud. It doesn't scream or demand attention. It simply endures with dignity. That's the art of emotional detachment. And for the masculine man, it is not only a tool, it's a way of life. The Stoic path is not to control others, but to master the self. You cannot force loyalty, but you can recognize when it's absent and walk away with dignity, not drama. Because peace is better than pretense, and strength lies in your ability to let go of what dishonors your soul